To finish up on XSS, I want to share a couple of resources that are quite useful. And the first one is this one, xssposed.org. And it's a good collection of vulnerabilities and demonstrations of just how XSS works. And you can get a sense of what I mean by that when you look at the latest submissions. So for example, if we take a look at, say, clubs.london.edu, and there's a full disclosure statement here, so precisely where the vulnerability exists. And if we scroll down a little bit, we can see the vulnerable URL, and it looks like there's a reflected cross-site scripting attack in the query string, and down a little bit further, a screenshot of what actually happens when that cross-site scripting attack executes. Now this is just a proof. This alone is not a malicious attack, but it is the sort of thing that someone could then go and weaponize. And I'm showing it here just to demonstrate how broadly socialized these sorts of risks become. And it is actually an interesting resource in order to look at how these attacks are put together and what sort of patterns tend to be vulnerable in websites. So particularly as an ethical hacker, looking for ways to exploit the system that you're working on, resources like this can give you a lot of really interesting ideas. Let me show you one other one that's quite useful as well. This is OWASP's XSS Filter Evasion Cheat Sheet, and it's a really interesting resource that talks about some of the patterns that you can use to mount an XSS attack that circumvent filters that developers build into websites. So for example, earlier on I spoke about always validating untrusted data. Now what developers will often do to try and defend against the risk of XSS is look for, say, a script tag. And they'll expect that that is always the pattern that an XSS attack adheres to. But using filter evasion techniques, you can construct the XSS attack in ways that circumvents those defenses. If we scroll down a little bit, you can see some good examples. So for example, using the image source attribute to execute JavaScript, or perhaps changing the case of the characters used in the attack, just in case the filter is looking for a specifically cased attack. Malforming HTML tags is another good example. It's not semantically correct HTML, but the browsers will very frequently still execute it. And again, it can be used to bypass the patterns that filters are looking for. Or here's another one, setting an invalid image source and then setting an on-error event on the image, such that when the browser fails to load that image, it executes the JavaScript in on-error. So as you can see, there are lots of really interesting attacks, and this page goes on and on with a really extensive set of evasion techniques. So if you're working as an ethical hacker, trying to find cross-site scripting vulnerabilities in an application, go and check this out because it's enormously useful. So that's the end of XSS. Let's now move on and have a look at another aspect of client security, and that's validation.